Om Apyayantu mamangani Vak pranaschakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam ma brahma nirakarot अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः We have been studying this Chāndogya Upanishad, which is from the Samaveda. And generally, Vedanta students have a tendency to go straight to chapters 6, 7, and 8. We, however, saw just a few selected mantras from the first 5 chapters and then plunged into the 6th chapter. In the 6th chapter again, I had a temptation to go straight away to the 8th khanda or section where Tattvamasi appears for the first time. From 8th to 16, that is in 9 khandas, we have the Mahavakya Tattvamasi appearing again and again. Navakritvaha Tattvamasi iti Upadeshaha Drishyate Shruyate Chāndogya Upanishadi Shashte Adhyaye. Navakritvaha, 9 times, and it all begins in the 8th khanda. However, since this entire chapter is studied very carefully by serious Vedanta students in these rather advanced classes on every Friday, I thought it is wise for me to not skip anything. However, we are taking certain important lines from each khanda. In accordance with that, in this 8th class on Chāndogya Upanishad, we are going to touch upon the very interesting and important section or part found in the sections 2 and 3 and 4. And what is important here, it talks about the Vedantic view of creation and dissolution. Where both creation and dissolution are not to be taken literally as true. However, from our point of view, where we see this world, this universe to be so real, the Upanishads come along and help us appreciate a way of seeing this all. Technically speaking, this method of Vedanta teaching is called Adhyaropa Apavada. Adhyaropa is best translated in English as deliberate superimposition. If you see a rope by mistake as a snake, you are not deliberate there. You don't do it knowingly. But when the Shastras say that from Brahma, this universe arises in a certain sequence, the Shastras are deliberately giving that scheme of things to you. Just as in the study of any subject, if a teacher brings certain concepts and then later on takes them back, then that is deliberate superimposition. But if somebody who does not know that subject, economics or science, history or mathematics. Suppose somebody doesn't know and takes a certain temporary measure to be literally true and good forever, he or she is mistaken. So before I plunge into the mantras, let me tell you the Upanishads, not only this Chandogya, but many others talk about certain utpatti, certain srishti, certain creation, and that is meant to take students along. Teacher wants to take along with him or her the students, coming down a few steps to the student's level. It is the student who thinks of the universe as real. The teacher is able to see Brahma and knows Brahma alone is real. And nothing ever has happened to Brahma. Nothing ever will happen to Brahma. Nothing ever happened in Brahma to Brahma before also. So, with this general introduction, let's see what the title topic of this class is. The title is given in the first slide as one to many, that is creation, and many to one, that is dissolution. Mind you, we are not talking about the dissolution, something called pralaya, that is supposed to happen at some distant point of time, but the Vedanta student, out of his wisdom, can cause dissolution. You dissolve the universe in your understanding. From Brahma, which is one without a second, the universe arises and comes into being. And an advanced Vedanta student, while taking note of this universe, goes about the Vedantic inquiry and successfully what they call in philosophy deconstructs and arrives back at the one. Therefore, in this slide which you are presently seeing, while a general title is one to many and many to one, there is a little equation too. 1 to 3 to 5, that is adhyaropa, deliberate superimposition, where the scriptures for a while temporarily admit, accept, concede that there is creation. One, that is Brahma, became three: fire, water, and earth. Out of the five, three elements are mentioned in this Chāndogya Upanishad: fire, water, and earth. These fire, water, and earth are indicative, or they imply space, air, fire, water, and earth. The three imply five. So one becomes three, going literally by the Chāndogya mantra, and that three become five, as we read in many other places in the vast um, domain of scriptures. The student, following a certain method of Vedanta, slowly sees that it makes no sense to regard the universe as literally real. The universe made of five elements. In the second part, deliberate, second part is subsequent negation. The five elements can be appreciated as actually only three. And the three also can be understood as actually one only. So 1 to 3 to 5, adhyaropa, 5 to 3 to 1, back, you return. You come back to square one. You come back to pure Brahman. All right. Where in the mantras that we will be seeing presently is this kind of deconstruction? I believe in Western philosophy too. May not be exactly what we are talking, but something closer to it. There is a powerful theory of deconstruction, and some philosopher called Derrida. His name is Derrida. Maybe he's a daredevil. So his parents gave him the name Derrida. So Derrida's deconstruction, they study in universities, but we are with Shankara. Shankara talks about apavada. Apavada is negation. In some of the Indian languages, apavada can mean false rumor, somebody being maligned, somebody becoming infamous because people are talking ill of him while he actually is free of any fault. Even Lord Krishna was accused of having stolen a very precious stone called Syamantaka Mani, and much bothered by false allegations, he went out and finally he finds that Samantaka Mani, which was on the chest of Jambavan's daughter, and he brings it back to clear the air, to let people know that he, Sri Krishna, had not stolen that Samantaka Mani. That apavada, that false spread of uh, accusations is a different word. Here, Adhyaropa Apavada, where in the mantras is it? It is in the sixth chapter. We are in the sixth chapter, fourth khanda, and in the first mantra, among other things, there is a very interesting statement. Apagat agnehe agnitvam is the sentence. Agnehe agnitvam apa agat. Apagachat. Nirjagama. Went away. Just a moment ago, fire was fire. A moment later, fire is no fire at all. The being fire that was attached to fire ended. Or as we have translated, taking some liberty, fire ceases to be fire. You are not unfamiliar with this. A pot ceases to be a pot when your eyes open to see the truth that the pot is nothing but clay. A necklace ceases to be a necklace, it is just gold, so on and so forth. So, in this class, we will arrive at that very statement Vacharambhanam vikaro nama dheyam mritiketheva satyam. Mritika, clay alone is the truth. And to call this a pot, to call that a plate, to call another a pitcher, etc., is an activity of speech, may have some limited relevance in some vyavahara, but it is all clay. Therefore, fire ceases to be fire. This pluralistic universe ceases to be pluralistic. It is understood to be one only. Agnehe agnitvam apagat. Adityasya adityatvam apagat. Chandrasya chandratvam apagat. You may apply this to everything. A mother sees her son, like the mother of Narendra Modi. He comes home once in a while and pays his respect to his mother, who I believe turned 100 years recently. So the mother may look at Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister is coming. But as he comes closer, he bends, he, like a good Hindu, touches the feet of his mother and shows all love and respect. The mother no more sees him as the Prime Minister. The Prime Ministership of the Prime Minister goes away. He gets reduced or enhanced or whatever you call, he becomes just the sun. In Kannada, there is a saying actually. Someone who may be a king before everybody, everybody in the town, he is just the son to his mother. ಊರಿಗೆ ಅರಸನಾದರೂ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ಮಗ is a very popular proverb or a famous saying. So there is a deconstruction there. The kinghood of a certain man is taken away, and this man who is looked at as the king by everyone is just the son, the beloved son in front of his mother. So towards this, we have a few mantras. Let's now go to the second slide where the thought development can be seen. In the second slide, we pick up from that very second khanda where in the last class we had gone over the discussion. Can everything arise from void, from asat? Uddalaka had emphatically said, no way. From Sat only everything comes. Into Sat everything emerges. Right in that khanda or section, in the third mantra, Uddalaka says to Shvetaketu, that Sat, that reality, Tad Aikshata. Aikshata is the past tense of Ikshate. Ikshate means one sees. Aikshata means one saw. The reality saw. And in Upanishads, the word Aikshata, saw, often represents thought. That reality thought. This is Adhyaropa. This is some kind of providing for certain activity where really there is no activity. To explain what we look around, what we see around, what we are noticing around us, something is permitted. That reality, Sat, not Asat, that Sat thought, Bahusyam, may I become many. Prajayeya, may I give rise to lot of things. Having thought so, that Sat brings to existence Tejaha. Tat Tejaha, fire, Asrajata. So from Brahma came fire, Tat Tejaha Aikshata. Now, chip of the old block, that fire too thought, I want to become many. I want to bring forth many manifestations. Tat Tejaha Aikshata. Bahusyam Prajayeya. Tad Apaha Asrajata. And though I have not given here, here I have given part of it. Taha Apaha. Apaha is the second case of Apaha. So, like in Hindi, we say Pani and Pani ko. Pani ko laya. So, Pani and Pani ko. Apaha and Apaha. Tat Tejaha Apaha Asrajata. And Taha Apaha, that water, Aikshanta. Grammatically, Apaha is plural. So, Aikshata became Aikshanta. So, water also thought, Bahuvyaha Syama. Let us become many, not just remain water. Or with the fire behind it, let's not remain fire and water. Let us become many more. And taha apaha annam asrajanta. So this is 1, 2, 3. Brahma alone was there. 1. No, there are 3. Tejaha, apaha and annam. Annam is prithvi, bhuhu. So the concise expression for this is Tejobanna. You may feel, what is this new word? Tejobanna. Tejaha, up, and Anna, brought together by Sandhi, gives us the word Tejobanna. So Tejobannani abhavan. they came into being. Now, in the original mantra, it is also said by way of a little insightfulness, a little humor. The original mantra says, when Tejaha came, no wonder Tejaha again created water. There the comment comes in. Oh, so fire led to water. Yes. The little humorous remark is, don't you see, whenever you get heated up, like on a hot summer day, you start sweating. So heat is fire, sweat is water. So fire leading to water is not an unknown process for you. They don't have to be literally connected, but you must appreciate the little wit and humor in the Upanishadic narrative. So we have tasmad yatra kvacha shochati svedate. Sweda is um, sweat. So tejasaha eva tad adi apaha jayante. And referring to the next part, which is in lighter blue here, apaha ekshanta and annam asrijata, the Upanishad adds in the original full mantra. So what does it say? Yatra kvacha varshati. Water, one best expression of water is the rains. Yatra kvacha varshati tadeva bhuishtam annam bhavati. Where there is good rains, of course at the right time, good crops, good agricultural produce, and so on. All right. What then happens? What further happens? Let me tell you. In the Chandogya Upanishad, five elements are not mentioned. But putting two and two together, studying different scriptures, we take the three Tejobanna, fire, water, and earth, to imply. That's called Upalakshana. When you hear Joe Biden is coming to India next year, such and such month, he won't come alone. He, of course, will come with a retinue. Oh, no, it is not said. It's not mentioned in that news item. Don't say like that. When the president of an affluent country comes, there will be some retinue, there will be a few others. Typically, in Western countries, the president, if he is married, comes along with the first lady too, and with the president, with the first lady, many people who help them in their work. You may be knowing the chief advisor to Jill Biden in Washington, D.C. happens to be a young lady of Indian origin, Mala Adiga. Her father was born and raised in Kundapur, where I grew up. So Ramesh Adiga's daughter, Mala Adiga, was picked up about a year ago. She was already among the staff of White House. When Jill Biden came, she said, I would want Mala to be my chief advisor. Quite qualified in law and many other administrative topics. Mala Adiga. So, if next year Joe Biden and Jill Biden come to New Delhi, be sure, without mentioning, be sure Mala Adiga will come. She may stay a few days more, visit Bangalore, visit Kundapur. I believe she once in a while comes and meets her, maybe some grandparents, granduncles, etc. A few might have been left. So that's called Upalakshana. You don't have to specifically say. Mentioning three, fire, water, and earth, their predecessors, Akash and Vayu, are implied. Now let's quickly see Radha Krishnan's translation, slightly edited by me, in slide number 3. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan is known for several books on Indian philosophy. His book, Principal Upanishads, covering some 16 Upanishads, is a bestseller. has been a bestseller. It, it means Sat, Sadeva Saumya Idamagrasi, thought. Sat thought, Brahman thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. It sent forth fire, it created fire. Then that fire thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. It sent forth water. That water thought, may I be many, may I grow forth. It sent forth food. Therefore, Tejaha Apaha Annam. Now, does it stop there? No. Once these three, or as found in other literature, the five elements came into being, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala and Prithvi, they then produce lot of Achara and Chara, uh, Stavara and Jangama, non-moving and moving, insentient and sentient beings all come into picture. You may say the five elements are insentient by themselves on the substrate of Sat, which is all life. Sat is life, Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat, and Tejobanna are never independent. They cannot stay even 1 millisecond on their own. So life is with them. So some expressions are sentient, Chetana, some others are insentient, Achetana. So let's see now. The fourth slide gives again a selected part of our mantras. We move thereby to the third khanda. In the third khanda, we have picked up two mantras, while actually there are four mantras. The two mantras we have chosen indicate that out of this Tejobanna, or one last time, out of the Panchabhutani, Tesham kalu esham bhutanam trini eva bijani bhavanti. In the elaborate creation that takes place, there are three kinds of living beings. Andajam, andebhyaha jayante, iti andajam, andajani. So the offspring of birds and I guess some other creatures like snakes and so on have first a birth in the form of an egg, and then from the egg they are seen to come out. So that's one criterion. Do they involve an egg in the process of their coming to the earth, coming to live and be active? Yes, andaja, jivaja. We mammals are all jivaja, from the mother's womb itself, without going through an intermediate stay in an egg. We come out, jivaja. A whole lot of beings. Ask some zoologist, they will tell you who are the andajas, who are the jivajas, and ask some botanist. They give a long list of plants and trees which break open from the earth and rise. Udbija. Udbid means coming up, bid means breaking through the soil. And the Upanishad mantra itself says, this is also Upalakshana. By referring to these three kinds, some places there is a fourth kind also, Svedaja. In moist settings, some creatures are seen to rise and grow. So probably some bugs and some mosquitoes, etc. So in some Prakarana Granthas, Chaturvidhani Bhutani are mentioned. But the idea is, in a general way, talking about the entire creation. Sa iyam devata aikshata. Now, in and through all this, there is the divine Brahma, divine intelligence. That intelligence thinks, Hanta, aha. Hanta is an exclamation. Aham imaha tisraha devataha anena jivena atmana anupravishya namarupe vyakaravani. Now I need to create countless forms of names and forms. All this is a certain framework where we accommodate the apparent creation. At the height of Vedanta, all creation is dismissed as mere fancy. They are adhyasam. They are an erroneous perception. When there is awakening, no thing ever happened. As I had referred to perhaps in an earlier class, David Gardman wrote a couple of volumes on the dialogues of an enlightened master who lived in Lucknow. His actual name was H.W.L. Punja, H.W.L. Punja, and he was called as Papaji. And all those conversations, which were generally on the high plateau of Advaita Vedanta, were put together and titled by David Godman, who otherwise is well known to be a devotee of Sri Ramana Maharshi, who has spent long years in Ramanashram. Probably, I'm not sure, he may be living there even now. David Godman wrote those books. And what was the title of those books made into a series? Nothing Ever Happened. What a title for a book. Nothing ever happened. That's called Ajatavad. But you and I, for now, will do namaskar to that Ajatavad from a distance, for we are not at that high level of maturity. Let's take this as real. The divine intelligence says, I will enter these devata. See, the one who thought also is Sa Devata, and the ones into which it enters are also devata. Sa devata aikshata, imaha devataha anupravishya. I am devata, I enter into these devatas. The result is Trivrutam. The three, Tejobanna, fire, water, and earth, go into a certain intermixing. Tasam Trivrutam Ekaikam Karavani iti sa iyam devata imaha tisro devataha anenaiva jivena atmana. With that intelligence which is divine, operating, entering into all these three, Namarupe Vyakarot. V plus A plus Akarot. V plus A plus Akarot. You see, V and A, when they come, it refers to Vividata and it refers to A Samantha in all directions. In all directions, A. In varied and diverse forms, V, Vaividya, names and forms arose. Let's take a quick look at Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan's translation. In the fifth slide now, Radhakrishnan writes, now of these living beings there are only three origins. Those born from an egg, Andaja, born from a living being, Jivaja, born from a sprout, Udbija, that divinity thought, well, Hanta. Let me enter into these three divinities by means of this living self, and let me then develop names and forms. Let me make each one of the three threefold. So each one, which originally was, let us say, fire alone, water alone, earth alone, later on becomes, one of them becomes predominantly fire, but to a lesser extent water and earth. Second one is predominantly water, but to a less extent fire and earth. The third one is predominantly earth, to a less extent fire and water. Each of them has all the three in it. The divinity entered into those three divinities by means of the living self and developed names and forms. Now, in the last two slides, we have the process of negation hinted at by the Upanishad. Elaborate negation will be taken up in the Upanishad also to some extent, but is done in various Prakarana Granthas. So before that, I must tell you, because we skipped a few lines in making the slides, the uh, Upanishad proper says, Yadagnehe rohitam rupam tejasadadrupam. We didn't miss really. We left two mantras, which doesn't add nothing very important. In the fourth khanda, see, these mantras are 6.4.1. And then there is 6.4.2, 6.4.3, etc. But we took one representative. Yat agnehe rohitam rupam. When fire is burning, flames are rising, you find sometimes multiple colors. Rohita and lohita both mean red. So fire has some certain red tongues. And sometimes they look like so bright and white, Shuklam. Then sometimes Krishna, meaning sometimes suddenly there is as though some darkness between the two flames. So red, white, and black. Some of you may right away think, oh, this seems to be a hint at Rajoguna, Sattvaguna, and Tamoguna. Well, you may take that in that way also, but here specifically, the Upanishad helps us to see that these three are connected with fire, water, and earth. Fire, we are talking about Agni. In Agni, there is Agnehe Rupam. Tejas and Agni are synonyms. Agnehe Rohitam Rupam, Tejasaha Rupam, Agnehe Eva Rupam. But Agni has whiteness also. That is Apam Rupam. That's contributed by water. Then there is some dark. If you see Mundaka Upanishad, you have studied in these classes, the flames of the Yajna fire are described. Kali, Karali, Cha, Manoja, Vacha, Sudhumra Varna, and so on. Kali, some tongues of the flame are blackish. So, when you see fire, broadly speaking, there are some red components, there are some white components, there are some black components. So you find this fire which you find in your lay life has Tejobanna. Tejaha leads to red, Apaha leads to white, and Anna leads to black. So what you see as fire, suppose is made of those primordial elements, then fire as fire ceases to exist. It is those three primordial elements, Tejobanna, that appear as fire. Therefore, the statement goes, Apagat agnehe agnitvam, vacharambanam vikaro namadeyam. You may say, with a pot in your hand, looking at it and understanding it to be clay, Apagat kumbhatvam kumbhasya. With a kantahara, necklace in your hand, you may look at that necklace and say, I don't see any necklace here. I see only gold. Apagat kantaharasya kantaharatvam kim parishishyate suvarnaha eva parishishyate. So gold alone remains. Apagat agnehe agnitvam. And to call it Agni, this Agni as you and I see in our life, is very superficial. On a deeper level, it is Tejobanna. Vacharambanam, as I have pointed out before, all vikara, all modifications, vikara is the subject of the sentence. Vikaraha vacharambanam eva, an activity of speech. Sarvaha vikaraha namadheyam eva. All modifications of a certain basic substance are just in speech. Trini rupani ityeva satyam. Trini, the Chandogya Upanishad, Shashtaha Adhyayaha, sticks to three. It doesn't go to five at all. I met other day a great Vedanta scholar who had studied everything extensively, especially Shankara's commentaries in great detail over decades. He said, "Do you know, Adi Shankara has not talked about Panchikarana and five going into five, etc. So a whole lot of diagrams, whole lot of description that these stula panchabhutas come out of the sukshma panchabhutas according to this mathematics. Stula akasha has 50% tanmatra akasha. Then the other 50% is made of 12 and a half, 12 and a half, 12 and a half, and 12 and a half of fire, water, uh, air, and earth, etc. That scholar was claiming is all unnecessary exuberance of prakaranakars and vyakyanakars. So there are certain schools of thought in Advaita Vedanta who say to us, don't study those other books at all, including Viveka Chudamani and so on. They have some beauty about them, but here and there they have distorted the original Shankara Darshana. They say that, which is a mind-boggling issue, which is a much debated issue also. But for you to know, it is said that this Panchikarana described in Atma Bodha and Viveka Chudamani and Tattva Bodha, etc., apparently does not have full sanction by Shankara Bhashya. Leave it aside, here it is only three becoming three, and then those three becoming all names and forms. So, most important sentence here is apagat. Apagat means went away, vanished, departed, lost, gone with the wind, as the expression goes, gone with the wind. There was a huge novel and there was a 3.5 hours long movie in good old days, Gone with the Wind. Very great movie. So, okay, let's not go into that. Gone with the Wind means they won't come back. It's over forever. That movie and that novel, especially, I guess, I have seen the movie, not read the novel. They talk about a certain American culture where all the whites had black slaves with them, and there breaks out the American Civil War, major milestone in American history. Civil War means what? Citizens fighting with other citizens, especially with the government. The federal government with all its army is on one side, and not from some other country, some other part of the world. American citizens only, well equipped with their private armies, battle. So, I guess if I understood it properly, that title refers to how a whole lot of jamindari. In India, we have had jamindari, landlords, but we didn't have that kind of slavery as the Americas had. The jamindars also had some servants who were obedient, but America's slaves were bought and sold, exchanged, and they were used like material property. Let me not comment more. Gone with the wind. So a whole culture, a whole way of society, whole way of living for the whites, a way of living where they had those slaves at their beck and call, owned by them, right? And for the blacks, oh, it was a way of life where the man, his wife, his children, everybody had to just do what the master said. They had no freedom, no independence. That system was gone with the wind after the very, very sad and violent civil war. So coming back, apagat. This word apagat made me say all that. Apagat, agnehe, agnitvam. So one last time, after the civil war ended and slavery was literally, theoretically by law and practically abolished, what was the result? Apagat, dasanam, dasatvam. A slave was no more a slave. Apagat, prabhunam, prabhutvam. Those masters, especially in the southern states, Texas or New Orleans or all those, Arkansas, and so many southern states. They had huge estates and they needed the slaves to do all the work there. So abolition of slavery was most unacceptable to them. So dasanam dasatvam apagat, prabhunam prabhutvam apagat. Anyway, let's come back to Vedanta. I know some of you must be not welcoming these references to so many things under the sun. But apagat means Agni is no more Agni, right? Likewise, in the mantras to follow, which we haven't given in these slides, we have Aditya. In the sun, sometimes there is certain reddishness, sometimes there is certain whiteness, and sometimes from some angles of view, there is some blackness. So all of them are no other than Tejasaha, Apam, Annasya cha Rupani. Therefore, the Aditya is no other than Tejobanna. Therefore, Apagat Adityat Adityatvam, Apagat Chandramasaha Chandramastvam or Chandratvam, Apagat Vidyutaha in a lightning also. Upon examination, there is no lightning but for Tejobanna. So, Vidyutaha Vidyutvam Apagat and so on and so forth. But all of them finally leads to our appreciating Brahma alone is. I have been saying in my lectures generally, when we are egocentric, we get all kinds of ideas. I am a loser. I have been sinful. I am so useless on one hand. I am a very successful man. In this whole town, I am most worthy. And there is nobody as holy as I am. I am holier than thou. All kinds of those ideas also. Apagad, punyavatvam. If you think you are holy, let go of it. Apagad, papitvam. If you think you are a sinner, drop it. So in Vedanta meditation, naham punyatma, naham papatma, naham yashasvi, naham parajitavan, naham dushtaha, naham shishtaha, naham, 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 chidananda rupaha, shivoham, shivoham. So that is the upshot of all these mantras. We take a look at Radha Krishnan's translation now in the last or seventh slide. Whatever red form fire has, it is the form of heat. Whatever is white is the form of water. Whatever is dark is the form of earth. Thus vanishes the quality of fire from fire. The modification, vikaraha, being only a name, namadeyam, arising from speech, vacharambanam, while the truth is, it is only the three forms. Tejobanna are the truth. And Tejobanna in turn is Sat. Therefore, Sadeva Somya Idam Asit, Sadeva Somya Idam Aduna Api Asti. What is Sadeva Somya? Sada Bhavishyati. What was, what is, and what will be is only the Sat Tattva, and thus Brahmanishto Bhava. Atmanishto Bhava. Shuddha Atma has no success or failure. Shuddha Atma has no Punyatma or Papatma in it. So stay in Shuddha Atma through proper study, proper reflection. Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram Ahamahimiti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati Hridi Vishamana Saswam Chinvata Majjatava Pavana Chalana Rodhat Atmanishto Bhavatvam. The Eka Shloki of Ramana, Maharshi Ramana puts it. Atmanishto Bhava. These ideas of good and bad, these ideas of victory and defeat, all of them have some truth on a shallow level, on a deeper level. You are Brahma. All your life is an endless, beginningless celebration. That is the upshot. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhyaha. So fine. One new message comes, which is no comments or questions. But I hope everything has been fairly clear. It is thought, it is spiritual ignorance, then arising as thought, that creates the entirety of diversity, ups and downs. And when there is true intelligence arising out of Vedanta study, supported by meditation and other practices, our whole outlook changes. And we will experience tremendous strength, peace within us. We know we don't have to get anything. We know we don't stand to lose anything. We are not afraid of old age. We are not afraid of death. We are not anxious about anything. Not in an irresponsible manner, but a mature understanding. Until our last breath, we will be doing whatever is appropriate from a certain angle of view. So, Vyavahara doesn't change. Don't think that after your Brahmanishta, if somebody comes and illegally occupies one of the properties that you have, you will just say, what? My property, his property, everything is Brahman. No, no, no. You may go to court or you may not. That's a different issue. Based on some criterion, you may act. You may show anger also. But a little deeper in your existence, you are least concerned. Deep inside, you enjoy such freedom. Outwardly, so that man may say, you are supposed to be Brahmanishta. Why are you worrying about this 60-40 piece of land? You will, with a smile, answer that illegal occupant. Yeah, I am not at all bothered about the 60-40 piece of land which you have illegally occupied. Then why are you going to court? Why should I not? My Brahmajnana neither forces me to go to court nor stops me from going to court. As simple as that. Brahmajnana neither makes you cry nor stops you from crying outwardly. Outwardly, you may do anything. And there are factors. So different Brahmajnanis, even after enlightenment, engage in different activities to less or more extent. So Brahmajnana is more on a deeper level, even as they are into activities from others' eyes. Inwardly they know, I am Shivoham, Shivoham. So, yap pashyati, sa pashyati. So let's see. Namaskar.